before we go into the episode, we just want to welcome you guys to a new month. Yeah, it's a brand new month, and welcome you guys to the second month of the year. We have 11 more to go. Here at Creative Operation, what we do is that we just share, we bring creatives like this man right here, but to share their struggles and what we all go through as creatives. So we're just gonna allow him to introduce himself.
Well, my name is Jonathan Stamper, and I don't really know. I'm a creative. I love Jesus, and I'm trying to make him famous all over the world. I run this company. It's called Kairos Culture, and basically the organization's objective is to train and equip creatives, entrepreneurs, and activists to really advance the kingdom through the marketplace. And so we partner them with mentors, experts in the fields. We build community for collaboration and networking, and we just are trying to build ideas that will put Christians in a position of influence, so that we can really do the gospel on a big level, you know? So, I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean, you spoke about activists, so also happy Black History Month. That's
facts.
I should have brought my Black Panther.
Shout out to Highly Favored, by the way.
Shout out to Highly Favored.
If you don't go to A-Life while you in Jersey, like, what you going?
Basically.
Like, okay, but some of y'all may not know that this guy is also a worship leader at A-Life. This man's voice is God has blessed him with a beautiful voice to really lead people into the atmosphere of worship. He's a producer. He has tracks. Well, I don't know. Do you still produce?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not as frequently, but I got stuff in the safe for y'all if y'all want
If you got SoundCloud, check him out on SoundCloud. Jonathan Stamper.
Just in case y'all forgot, he got stuff in the safe.
He got stuff in the safe for y'all.
You never know when I might unlock it.
Okay. As you can see, he has his hands in a lot of stuff. So I don't even know where we're gonna start talking about. Like you were asking, when did you start creating, and what was it that you started with?
Ironically enough, I was actually in a conversation about this a few weeks back. When I really started creating, I was very, very young. I used to write songs and different things like that, but I was real crazy. I used to draw, I used to paint, I used to do pretty much anything I could get my hands on. But music was like the main thing, because my family all did music. Like my grandparents on both sides, my mom, my dad, my uncles, and everybody did
music. Both sides, just like a fun.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's good.
And so I just kind of followed along, and you know, in church, music is like one of the main things. So growing up in church, that's kind of just what I did. But in terms of like real creativity, it didn't really open up till I was maybe like, I would say maybe like 9 or 10. I was probably like, I think like 5th grade or something like that. And it was around the time Michael Jackson died. And I used to do stuff for fun, like, you know, to just play around and do everything. My mom had a conversation with me. I don't tell this story very often, but she came in my room and she was like, I want to talk to you about something. And I was like, okay. Because I was at the time I was in dance camp. I was writing music. I was drawing. I was doing a bunch of different stuff. I was winning, you know, like art competitions and all this other stuff. And so she just told me. She sat down and told me, listen, I know you do all this like creativity stuff and music stuff for fun, but I want you to understand that you have a certain level of gift that is not. It's not very frequent. It's not often that people carry this kind of thing. She was talking to me about Michael specifically and how he just passed away and the kind of impact that he left in the world. She said that she believed that I could leave a similar impact. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time. But I started searching it out.
Shout out to parents, yo.
Yeah, honestly, like, train up a child, man. There are, in business and entrepreneurship and creativity, my mom has been responsible primarily. My mom and both of my dad and my stepdad have been responsible for giving me a picture of who I could be and what I can do. I remember there were times like that conversation where my mom sat me down and opened me up to a bunch of information. My stepdad showed me music. I used to only listen to gospel because, you know, church parents don't let you listen to no secular music. It's like Kirk Franklin, Marvin Sapp, Israel Houghton. We don't mess with none of that. And no Chris Brown, none of that stuff. We don't do none of that R&B because that's the devil. But my stepdad, listen, the shackles off of me so I can dance, right? Come on.
Yeah,
I just want to praise you.
That's the OG.
Okay. Listen, come on, we used to have the dance parties to that.
OD.
The cookout songs, okay? But nah, so my stepdad put me on to like R&B music, to production, and opened my mind to really what could be possible. Even I remember there was one time where my mom, in terms of worship, I don't know if you guys know William McDowell. He came to my church, and I was in children's church. I was mad young at the time. This was probably like 2008. And my mom pulled me out of children's church, sat me at the altar, and she was like, I want you to look at that because I want you to understand a picture of what your future is.
Wow.
I was like, of course, I'm sitting there like, I was playing with my toys. I was having a good time. You just interrupted my playtime. So I don't care about what you have to say right now. But I remember that day very distinctly. And in the last like year and a half or so, I actually met William, and I told him about that story. And now, you know, I'm doing worship, I'm leading worship, singing songs, writing songs, and stuff like that. And
dang, that's crazy.
I had no idea what she was, you know, what she was referring to, because I went through a whole journey of being far from God and all that kind of stuff. And so I used that as a model even now, like, of things that I didn't even know were in me, she saw in me at that time. And that's why it's so important as, like, I feel like creative people, we don't just need people who inspire us and people who lead us in that direction. We all have a responsibility to help people get to that place and see something in them that they don't necessarily see in themselves, which is why I'm such a big fan of the prophetic. God's voice on stuff will open you up to stuff that you never thought was possible. And it will tell you things about yourself that you never really thought you could achieve, but it will lead you on a path to becoming who you are in a way that nothing really else can, you know?
You touched on a lot there. One thing I want to ask is because you said that your mom was, you know, showing you this vision of where she saw you, where the Lord placed on her heart that she saw you, and just your whole family's done music. So in addition to any other struggles that you've experienced on your path to like doing music and you know, Kairos culture, do you think like you've ever had like a Michael Jordan Jr. complex where you see all these people around you and you've seen the legacy that's been left and it's like you're trying to fill these shoes?
Oh yeah, like when you grow up with all of your parents in ministry, and not just in ministry, like they're like, my mom led worship, and she was like one of the worship leaders for a church with like 7,000 people. My stepdad was the assistant music director at that church. My dad was the worship leader and one of the leaders in the music ministry at his church. And every church we went to, it was like that. It was like, you know how people talk about like preacher's kid complex? It was basically the exact same thing for me and my sister, because the other person that everybody sees other than the preacher is the worship leader, and that's just what it is. And so you know, like that was the experience I had my entire life, where people will always compare me to my parents and try to tell me what I was gonna be because of who they were. And it was a struggle for me when people told me that I was called to ministry, and like I was gonna preach or I was gonna lead worship or do whatever. I rejected it outright, not so much because I hated God, or whatever the case may be, but more so because every picture of ministry that I saw didn't look like me. I'm not the robe-wearing, collar-wearing type. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't like wearing like heavy suits and stuff like that.
I wear sweats 24/7.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like I could rock a suit. You know what I'm saying? But that's not who I am. Like I always felt like that world was just something that was I couldn't be that because nobody who looked like me was doing it, nobody who thought like me was doing it, nobody who sounded like me was doing it. And so I leaned more into my creativity and kind of rejected the whole Christian creativity world outright, because I felt like there were so many margins and so many limits that people placed in that world that it was like, I can't do that. And so being their child, everybody was like, you're just gonna do what they do. And I'm like, I'm not them. I have parts of them in me.
I have a question for you. So like the parts of them in you, can you touch on like what you were looking, when you saw yourself, like what did you see yourself as, like when you looked at yourself back then?
Well, I mean, the parts of them that were in me, obviously, like both my parents sing, and they can both sing their faces off. It's kind of ridiculous. Everybody hears me, they're like, oh yeah, you're a great singer. Then they hear my mom or they hear my dad, and they're like, oh, So that's
a little different.
Yeah, like, and so I carried that. My stepdad with the production and music, he really introduced me to all that stuff. All that stuff I know about playing and producing is because of him. But in terms of my difference, I have very different influences. There are people that inspire me that my parents don't necessarily find as heroes or inspirations. I am a huge fan of hip hop. Like, hip hop is my stuff. Like, there was a point where, you guys know that I used to like rap real heavily, so I used to sing and rap. There was a point where I thought I had to choose between the two, and I was gonna choose rapping. I was like, I'm done singing, like straight up, because I love hip hop so much, and so. For me, a lot of my biggest inspirations come from that world. I'm a huge Kanye West fan. I mean, you know, his personal stuff is.
But here's why we're bringing this up, because we're not really here to talk about all the influences, and we could talk about it all day. But how did that affect you growing up and like trying to define? Because apparently, like you said, there were times when you were, you know, when you drifted away from God and you were taking whatever God has gifted you in. Like, how was that like? Because it's really a shift from that perspective to where you are now. If you know him now, it's different. So just
very different.
I don't want to say much, just by
my God. Honestly, for me, the whole journey, it was kind of. I'll tell you this. Like, I was in a band growing up when I moved to Rhode Island, and so I was in a band for a little bit, and we did worship. We were the youth band, so it was something that I would try because I was so into music. I was consuming so much music. One of my favorite artists was Kanye West, and so there was this song. I'll give you this example to give you an illustration of what I used to do. There's a song called "Great and Powers" by Hillsong. It's a very old song, and so a lot of churches were doing it at the time. But me being the crazy guy that I was I was like, okay, if we're gonna do it with our own little spin on it, I took the sample from Power, and I chopped it and I threw it in the worship set. So we rearranged the song with that, like basically as
and I know it was fire.
Listen, bro,
it was different.
Listen, man.
I know it was fire.
This man was different.
We had so much fun with it, but I tried that at a couple of different places, and some places were receptive to it, and other places weren't. And it was a real struggle. There was actually one person who came to me and essentially told me that if I don't do gospel music or worship music, whatever the case may be, that I was going to hell and different things like that. It was experiences like that that made me very frustrated, and it was to the point where literally I was being tortured. Like, I couldn't sleep. I literally, because God gave me a heart for this stuff. My interests weren't necessarily in gospel music at the time. My passions and my heart was for hip hop, R&B, pop music. All those things were huge influences on me. And so I felt like God had damned me to hell. Like, he gave me, listen, he gave me ideas, he gave me perspectives, he gave me stuff that spoke to me in a way that nothing else did. But at the same time, he was telling me that I couldn't use any of it, I couldn't look at any of it, or else I was in definitive rebellion towards him. And so I was like, all right, well, if that's the case, then I guess I'm just damned to hell. So I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna do what I want to do. And so I kind of fought with that for a while.
That was a tug in your heart.
Exactly. But for me, after a while, I was kind of just like, all right, I'm gonna just do what I want to do. So when people would say stuff like, oh, you're called to be a worship leader, you're called to be a pastor, you're called to be a preacher, all this other stuff, I was like, yeah, you can get in my face with that. Like, I'm not interested in that.
Let's talk about ministry, right?
Yeah.
Let's go into the struggles of ministry, because one thing I'm realizing, a lot of stuff that happens to some of us creatives, especially when you're gifted in different areas of your life. For me, there's that, God, when am I going too far? How is it for you, like, moments, in deciding like how you're going to just, navigate that sphere?
Honestly, once I kind of, when I came to God again, I feel like my perspective was so different, because I really realized exactly what we're talking about, where everything was created by God. It's just broken people who take things that are created by God and distort them. For example, as creatives, we create things with specific intent. And so when you step out of the intent for which you were created, then you end up in badness, because God doesn't make anything bad. He makes things good, and he makes them good in their context. But when you decide that you want to step outside of that context, that's when you end up in evil. And I think that's really the revelation that has fueled me at this point. as I'm on my creative process, as I'm discovering, as I'm talking to and mentoring other creatives, is understanding that creativity comes from God. Outside of its context, it can be very dangerous. It can create a lot of problems. But when you funnel it through the voice of God and through the mind of God and the heart of God, then it can be explosive. It doesn't, a lot of people think that doing stuff for God will limit you. But in reality, you're talking about the author of creativity, the creator of the entire universe. We make songs, we make beats, we make clothing lines, we make buildings. This guy made the stars, okay? He came up with the idea for the universe. That was his idea that he fleshed out in a specific way. And so when we understand that we have him at our disposal, not just somebody who created everything, but a person who knows exactly what society is going to need. He knows exactly where society is going. You have the author of ingenuity at your disposal, so use him. Don't limit yourself to the way people have done everything. Open yourself up to more, and you don't have to depend on the world to make you creative or to make you inventive. You can take influences from that and discern what parts of those were God and what parts of those were the devil, and take the parts that were God and use them for his glory, and leave the other parts where they're at. Jesus did it with the disciples, man. He when he chose the 12, he didn't choose a bunch of religious elite. He chose entrepreneurs, he chose creatives, he chose political extremists.
Thieves.
Exactly. He chose crazy people. You know what I'm saying? Like, he chose wild people. But it was not because of that their behavior was necessarily right all the time. It was because there was principles from the spheres and the worlds that they were in that Jesus wanted to use to advance his objective, to advance his causes. And so that's what we're called to do as creatives, is to see the potential in a thing and to bridle it through discipleship, and then use it for the glory of God. You know what I'm saying?
What was it like for you being able to understand that you don't have to choose between being a musician there and being a worship leader? Because it's basically the same thing. But
it's funny because for a long time, when I was first getting saved, I was kind of on that trip of like, I don't gotta choose, I don't gotta choose, I don't gotta choose. But it was coming from a different place. It was coming from a place that I had this dream that followed me through my entire life. And when church rejected me, when my family rejected me, when I was going through the worst moments of my life, my music was there for me. And so the way that I realized that there was an issue was when God asked me at a time. I tell this story not very often. I'll give a very abridged version. But there was a time where God had put me in a position where I had record deals on the table. I had tours lined up, things that people wanted to take me on, TV shows that I was going to be on. And God, I was sitting in my friend's apartment, and God was like, hey, you know that music dream that that I gave you? I want you to give it up. And I was like, excuse me? Because I've been working for this thing for the last 10 years, and I spent nights researching and studying and working for hours and hours on end, days where I wouldn't even go to sleep because I was working so hard. This thing kept me out of gang violence. This thing kept me out of drug addiction. It kept me out of all different kinds of craziness. My music, my dream was the thing that drove me. Even when I felt like God wasn't there for me, I had my music. And so I talked to him about that. And through that conversation, he made me realize that my music was an idol. And it was, my dream was more important to me than him. And so he had to remove it from me. Not necessarily, he didn't take it by force, but he made me give it up. And so for a long time I thought, okay, well then, I guess you gotta choose then. So you're either doing ministry or you're doing music. And now that I'm at the place that I'm at, I realize that's not the case. Again, I'm writing a book, and then one of the things that I talk about in the book is called, one of the things I talk about in the book is called, it's about dreams, and it's about a concept called dreaming with God. And basically, through my story, I explore that story a little bit, and one of the principles of that story is that God doesn't give you dreams to take them away from you. He gives you dreams to partner with you to make them happen. The only time that he has to take a dream away from you is when you try to dream without him. And so that's essentially what was going on with me. Is that
because it's saving you from
exactly. And so he doesn't give you an idea to be a filmmaker because he wants you to just be like, you know what, I'm not going to do that. He wants you to take that and he wants you to apply it with partnership with him so that it can take on a life that you never really thought imaginable. And most creatives like myself, we do that dance of we're trying to do both, when in reality it's not a both. They are all one thing. Yes, everything that you do is to bring glory to God. And when you partner with him to make it happen, then there's really no limits on how much you can accomplish, what you can achieve, and what it looks like. He removes it from you when it's a danger to you, and he gives it to you when you're mature enough to use it in its proper context. And with proper context is working with him, because he has a dream. We all think about our dreams. We forget that God has one. He has a very specific dream of what he wants to see the world look like. And it's not just churches with a bunch of members and tithes and offerings and worship sets. He has a dream for what government looks like. He has a dream for what the arts and entertainment industry looks like. He has a dream for what politics and social justice looks like. He has a dream for what business looks like. And he wants to use his people to enact that dream in the earth. The problem is the reason why he makes us choose is because we keep on trying to dream without him. And we keep trying to do what we are called to do and erase him out of the picture. And so instead of giving us the platforms and allowing us to destroy ourselves and to destroy other people, he'll keep us from that.
I do think about it this way, like, you know, when something becomes an idol, it becomes detrimental to your life in a sense. It's bad. Like it's almost like that thing you thought was good, and it becomes like a bad fruit.
Exactly.
You eat bad fruit, you're gonna have to go to the bathroom.
Come on,
or maybe die.
Yeah, man.
And God doesn't want that. So not that I feel like sometimes God not even takes it away completely, because you're still a singer. You can still write, but now that your mind is different,
He had to reinvent it.
Exactly. Just he cleans it up and. So God is really gracious and good.
And that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people though. Like I know to take your dream and have it reinvented into like.
I think it's because we see it like it's taking it away, but in a sense he's basically correct, because God he says that he makes all things new.
Exactly.
God can literally start take that thing that you perverted, put it out, bring a new one, put it back in your mind, and you do even different and better. And mind you, that was his plan.
Yeah,
it was never out of his plan.
That's the fact. Like when we think about it, yo, dreams, we keep saying like my dream. It's not my dream. Exactly. The fact of the matter is, it was never your dream in the first place. God made you, so any dream that you had was his, that he put inside you.
Yeah.
And so we keep talking about, oh, God taking away, and that's where I was at. I was like, God's taking this thing away from me. The fact of the matter is, he is the one who gave it to me.
I do believe that's true. It's just it's not as easy for someone.
Oh no, it's hard.
Like I know, like right in the middle, like you even touched on, right in the middle of that reinventing, it's like you're not trying to hear it.
Yeah. And you know why it's not easy? It's pride.
Yeah.
It's all pride. It's all because we think it's ours. How dare you take what you gave me?
And you know, I think pride is also a part of it. But then even you, like the work you put in 10 years.
That's again.
It's crazy.
We can talk about this all day, but you understand that all that work compared to what God was saying, it's trash. Like sometimes I come to God and I'm apologizing to God. I'm sorry for all my sins, and it's like, son, I've forgiven you. You're apologizing for your sins. Your righteousness is filthy, but I still love you. So stop beating up yourself about the bad things you did. I see if the good things can ever match them. You can never match it up.
That's literally
the hard work.
What I was thinking about.
The hard work to God is really like Jesus. Someone said Jesus died so we don't have to perform.
Yeah.
That was the aim. Jesus died so you don't have to feel like I'm doing a lot of work for you. We're literally sons of God. We're heirs to his throne.
Exactly.
And again, if you think about it the way I think Peter says, no longer I can live, but Christ that lives through me.
Yeah, man.
We're vessels. Without him, we're like
exactly.
Literally. So all that hard work you're doing is really, he's the author and the finisher. All the hard work you think you were doing, he enabled you from this jump to do it to that point. And if he didn't enable you, you won't be able to. Let's not get into it. We're going to preach it today. But what is your creative goal? What is your creative goal with everything that you're doing right now?
Really, my creative goal is very simple. Revelations 11:13, which essentially says, the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ. I believe that's my life's job, is to give the kingdoms of this world back to its rightful owner. And second is Acts 17:6. These are the men that turn the world upside down. And so That's really what it is.
But did you guys enjoy the video? Pretty sure y'all did.
Hope you did. There was a lot of words in here. We appreciate you guys for checking in. Thank you, Jonathan, for coming out.
No problem. I had a good time.
Stop making me
Listen.
people. There's a girl comes like, hey, thank you for coming.
I'm not. This is an awkward hug. I just
No, I'm saying like if it was a girl, what you gonna do?
I'm a dapper up.